In the arid heart of the Middle East, between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River, lies a small strip of land whose influence on world history is extraordinary. This land, today known as Israel, has been a crossroads of civilizations, faiths, and empires for more than 3,000 years. Geography and early human settlement. Archaeological evidence shows that human habitation in this region dates back hundreds of thousands of years. Prehistoric communities lived along the coastal plain, in the Galilee Hills, and within the Jordan Valley. The land's strategic position, linking Africa and Asia, made it an ancient bridge of trade and migration. By the early Bronze Age, around 3300 BCE, small city-states began to form. Sites such as Jericho and Megiddo became centers of agriculture and commerce. Canaanite peoples developed organized societies, speaking Semitic languages and worshiping multiple deities connected to nature and fertility. These were the foundations of what would later become the biblical land of Israel. The patriarchal era and biblical tradition. According to the Hebrew Bible, the story of Israel begins with a single man, Abraham, who around the early 2nd millennium BCE journeyed from Mesopotamia to the land of Canaan, following a divine call. His descendants, Isaac, Jacob, and Jacob's 12 sons, would become the tribes of Israel. While the historicity of these patriarchs cannot be precisely verified archaeologically, the narratives reflect memories of ancient nomadic groups migrating through Canaan. By the late Bronze Age, around 1550 to 1200 BCE, Egyptian records mention various Semitic groups in the region, including a people called Apiru or Habiru, possibly linked to the Hebrews. The Exodus and the formation of Israel. One of the central stories in Jewish tradition is the Exodus, the liberation of the Israelites from slavery in Egypt under the leadership of Moses. Scholars debate the historical details, but it is widely accepted that sometime between the 13th and 12th centuries BCE, new tribal federations emerged in the highlands of Canaan. These early Israelites established small settlements distinct from the coastal Canaanite cities. The period that followed was one of loose tribal organization. The tribes were connected by shared faith in Yahweh, the God of Israel, and by common cultural traditions. This tribal confederation is often associated with the time of the judges, local leaders who provided military and spiritual guidance. The United Monarchy. By the late 11th century BCE, external threats, especially from the Philistines along the coast, encouraged the Israelites to unite under a single monarch. Saul, from the tribe of Benjamin, became Israel's first king. His reign laid the groundwork for centralized rule, but internal divisions remained. Around 1000 BCE, David, a young warrior from Bethlehem, succeeded Saul and established Jerusalem as his capital. King David expanded Israel's borders and forged a unified national identity. His son, Solomon, inherited a prosperous kingdom and built the first temple in Jerusalem, a monumental center of worship that symbolized the covenant between the Israelites and their God. Solomon's reign marked a golden age of political stability and architectural achievement, but after his death around 930 BCE, internal disputes split the kingdom. The northern tribes formed the Kingdom of Israel with its capital at Samaria, while the southern tribes became the Kingdom of Judah, centered in Jerusalem. The divided kingdoms and exile. The divided monarchies struggled against powerful neighbors. The Assyrian Empire conquered the northern kingdom of Israel in 722 BCE, exiling many of its inhabitants. A century later, in 586 BCE, the Babylonians under King Nebuchadnezzar II captured Jerusalem, destroyed the first temple, and deported the elite of Judah to Babylon. This catastrophic event, the Babylonian exile, became one of the most defining moments in Jewish history. In exile, the Jewish people preserved their identity through prayer, study, and the written word. The Torah and other sacred texts were compiled and edited during this period, transforming Israelite religion into Judaism. Return and Persian rule. When the Persian Empire conquered Babylon in 539 BCE, King Cyrus the Great allowed the Jewish exiles to return to their homeland. They rebuilt Jerusalem and the Second Temple, re-establishing the city as a spiritual center. For the next 2 centuries, Judah, now called the Persian province of Yahud, remained under imperial control, but enjoyed relative autonomy in religious affairs. Hellenistic and Roman periods. After Alexander the Great's conquest of the Middle East in the 4th century BCE, Greek language and culture spread across the region. Following Alexander's death, his generals divided the empire, and Judea became a contested land between the Ptolemies of Egypt and the Seleucids of Syria. Greek influence created deep cultural tensions. In 167 BCE, the Seleucid ruler Antiochus IV attempted to impose Hellenistic worship in the Jerusalem temple. Jewish resistance erupted into the Maccabean revolt, led by Judah Maccabee and his brothers. Against all odds, the Jews recaptured Jerusalem, purified the temple, and established the Hasmonean dynasty, an independent Jewish kingdom that lasted nearly a century. In 63 BCE, Roman general Pompey entered Jerusalem, bringing Judea under Roman domination. The Romans installed local rulers, the most famous being Herod the Great, 37 to 4 BCE, who renovated the Second Temple on an unprecedented scale. Yet Roman taxation and interference sowed resentment among the Jewish populace. The birth of Christianity and the Great Revolts. In the 1st century CE, amid Roman rule, a new spiritual movement emerged within Judaism, centered on the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. His followers spread his message of faith, love, and redemption throughout the empire, eventually forming Christianity. Meanwhile, growing unrest among Jews led to open revolt in 66 CE. The Romans crushed the uprising and in 70 CE destroyed the Second Temple, a tragedy that transformed Jewish life forever. A later revolt, the Bar Kokhba Rebellion, 132 to 135 CE, ended with massive destruction and exile. The Romans renamed Judea as Syria Palestina in an effort to erase Jewish national identity. For nearly 2,000 years after these events, the Jewish people remained scattered across continents, maintaining their faith and longing for a return to Zion.